Do you find holding space for your children's big feelings really exhausting? My name's Jodie Thornton, and today I'm going to talk about why we experience this in what I call more progressive parenting, but why it's not inherently necessary to feel that way, and how we can shift it so that we can be a really reliable, safe space for our children without feeling like it's sucking every last drop of our energy all the time. So this can be particularly difficult for parents who are doing gentle, respectful, or any kind of progressive parenting. Sometimes we can find that we're the only parent that our child will share their feelings with. And sometimes it can be both parents that they're happy to share their feelings with, but we as an individual just find it really exhausting to be the person who holds space for their feelings all the time. So I'm going to talk about the 3 reasons why it feels really draining and what we can do about it. So the first reason that this feels really draining is because we really misunderstand what feelings are in this culture. So if you think about how we talk about feelings, we're basically thinking that if we treat the feeling appropriately, in inverted commas, that the feeling will dissipate. So what that might sound like, people might talk about it like it's the weather, and some people even recommend visualizing the feeling being separate from you, like the weather, so that you can see that you are not your feelings. And that can sometimes be helpful, but it misses the point that our feelings tell us what's going on with our needs. So when we have what we call positive feelings, that's telling us that our needs are being met. When we have what we call negative feelings, that tells us that our feelings are not being met. And you notice I'm saying what we tend to call positive or what we tend to call negative. It's just, for me, it's like the feelings are just like signals. And if you imagine like what's happening when your fuel tank tells you that it's empty or that it's halfway, it's not positive or negative. It's just a signal of what is the truth. It's just telling you what's going on inside of the fuel tank. Now, of course, it's a negative indicator if you can't get to the petrol station on time or you don't have the money to refill the tank. Obviously, that then has negative connotations, but the fuel indicator is literally just telling you what's going on in the fuel tank. There's nothing good or bad about it. It's just giving you information. And feelings are the same way. So if we think about what comes up for us when our children have big feelings, we are basically told that if we hold space for them in the right way, that they will calm down, the feelings will get less intense, or maybe it's just normal for the feelings to be really intense. All the while we're missing that they're trying to tell us that something is going on for them. And so the more we have the skills to be able to recognize what is this signal telling us, what does it really mean when our children are having big feelings, that then all of a sudden means that we don't feel like big feelings are a crisis. We don't feel like we need to urgently fix it. We don't feel like we need to stay calm for extended periods of time, because we can figure out, we know, even if we can't figure it out in this particular instance, we know that in general it is possible to figure out what is the feeling telling us about what our children are needing, and therefore what can we do to help them get that need met. So that all of a sudden will shift how intense and how draining the feelings are for you. So this will get easier and easier the more practiced you are at figuring out what the feeling is, and also the more practiced you are at helping your child to articulate those feelings for themselves, so that then they can say to you, hey, I'm feeling disconnected, could you hang out with me, instead of having a tantrum, or instead of making out like their sibling is the favorite child, right? They're actually going to say to you, I need connection. They may not use those exact words, it could be an age appropriate way, but you're going to get that more verbal articulation rather than it coming up and out in those big feelings kinds of ways. Now, the second reason that we find holding space for our children's big feelings really draining is when we don't know how to help our child physically regulate enough that they can talk about their feelings. So if you imagine your feelings stack up, if you don't know how to resolve them, they're going to stack and stack and stack until you hit the point of being overwhelmed. Now, once you hit the point of overwhelm, sometimes you need a little bit of help to get back on track, get back into a rational frame of mind so that you can actually articulate how you're feeling and talk through it and problem solve. So we see this is the time when your child is refusing to accept any solutions. We see this when your child, so say for example, they ask for an ice cream and you actually said yes, they could have an ice cream, but then the big feelings didn't go away, right? That's clearly a time where they're actually in overwhelm and they're not getting to the root of how they're feeling. We see this when they're button pushing over and over and over again. They're still looking for some kind of reaction. What that tells us is that we're in that disconnected from our rational mind and we need to bring it back. So how we can do that, sometimes it's as simple as identifying what the feelings and needs are. That can be enough to bring a child back into regulation. Sometimes we need to use our body language and the words we use and the tone of voice we use to help your child to really come back into a regulated place. And those are just skill sets. Like you can see how everything I'm saying along here is just a skill set. It's not something that some people are inherently able to do and some people aren't. These are all just skills that we are all capable of learning. So once you know you have confidence in your own ability to bring your child back into the place of regulation, you may not be able to do it 100% of the time, but if you have confidence in yourself that most of the time you can help your child to calm down out of dysregulation into regulation, then you're going to feel like holding space for big feelings is not draining. Now, this is especially like kind of I hesitate because it's kind of a bit of one of those funny things. It's like the better you are at it, the less you have to spend time doing it, because the better you are at helping your child to regulate, the shorter the tensions are. So you actually don't need to expend that kind of gritting through holding space for somebody as much if you know how to help them actually regulate. But it is one of those things that even on the days where it doesn't work. So say, for example, it's not working because on this particular day, your skills just aren't coming together. Maybe you're exhausted. Maybe you've got something on your mind. Maybe you have your period. Like there could be anything going on that's making you just a little bit less effective at having empathy for them. But the other thing that can happen is that maybe it's just a particularly big tantrum and it's just not working. On those days where it's not working, if you've got confidence that the vast majority of the time you know how to help your child to calm down, on the days where it's hard and it's just not working, it doesn't feel draining. So for me, I can hold space for somebody else's feelings for an extremely long period of time without losing an ounce of energy. And that is a combination of the skills that I have built in being able to hold space. So I feel confident that I can do it really well. I also feel I'm very, very clear that this is that person's feelings, not my feelings. This is about their needs, not mine. And so I don't feel drained by them having feelings for an extended period of time. And I've dealt with any of the messages I have about feelings and what does it mean for us to not be able to resolve our feelings. So I can hold space for somebody's feelings for a really long period of time without it draining my energy. And when I notice on the days where it is draining my energy, that's a clue that something's not right here. Either my skills are off, I'm not being really fine-tuning around my skills. It might be that it's a time where I actually don't want to hold space for that person. I've got other things that are my priority. So that's a signal for me to either communicate that to the person, or say, for example, it's my child. I might say to my husband, it's his turn to handle this because right now I need to work, or right now I need to focus on going for a walk for my own health, or there's a reason why I don't want to do it. Or it's a signal that perhaps some more baggage of mine has come up and needs to be processed. And so that will really help. Once you know how to do that and you have the skills to hold the space, that will really help you to feel in the same way that holding space for someone else's feelings is not a draining activity in and of itself. So the third thing that makes holding space for people's big feelings really draining, and this is particularly true for our kids, is if we don't know how to figure out what is the need underlying the big feelings and how do I actually meet that need, and especially without sacrificing myself. So if you imagine, a lot of people will talk about how my child needs more one-on-one time than I have at the moment. 9 times out of 10, that's actually not true. So 9 times out of 10, when a child needs a lot of one-on-one time, there's some need that is being met by that one-on-one time that isn't connection. Because if it was connection, you would be able to achieve that without hours and hours of one-on-one time a week. You can achieve connection through your everyday routine. You don't have to do that through one-on-one time. I'm not saying one-on-one time is not important and helpful, but most of the time, if you're saying my child needs more one-on-one time than I can give them, chances are it's another need, and it feels like it's a bottomless pit because you're not actually meeting the need that they have. So those needs might be to matter. It might be they actually just might need fun, and they don't know how to have fun by themselves, right? Like if they don't have the skills to be able to create an activity and follow their own interests, then one-on-one time is a great way to fill that hole until you need to do something else, or you don't feel like playing for hours and hours on end, or they want to play something you don't want to play. Like this is that part where it comes into, am I sacrificing my own needs in order for them to get their needs met? That's where it's going to feel draining, is because I'm giving more than I can, and or it's just a bottomless pit. I cannot ever get to the point where my child's needs are being met, because, and it's often because we're trying to fill one need with another strategy, right? And strategy that doesn't actually meet that need. So once you know how to get really clear on what the need is underneath the feeling, and you know how to be creative to find out what can I do that will get my child's needs met while also looking after my own, then holding space for big feelings doesn't feel as draining. Again, part of this is that it means the feelings don't go on for as long, because if you know how to skillfully figure out what is going on for real and how do we solve it, the big feelings are by definition not happening for as long of a time period. So that makes it less draining in and of itself. But then secondly, it comes back to this confidence thing, as like every time big feelings come up, if I know we're probably going to sort this out, like not 100% of the time, but probably most of the time we're going to be able to figure out a way for all our needs to be met, then it makes the whole process of having to sit with the feelings to figure out what's really going on, makes that so much more easy. It's so much more comfortable for you to be able to sit with your child and figure all that through. Now, you'll notice that all of these things I've talked about so far are just skills. It's literally just a skill set that you can build over time. The fourth reason children's big feelings can be draining to hold space for is actually not a skill set, it's a process. So if we have baggage about big feelings, that's going to come up sometimes, and it can need to be processed in order for you to be able to hold space for big feelings. So I want to talk about how this can happen. One of the things can happen is that just in general, we feel quite fearful about intense feelings. Just that in and of itself, we're just not comfortable with the intensity of feelings that happens. That can be some things that are carried over from our own childhood or even experiences as an adult. There can be things there where we actually need to unpack what is that bringing up, what experiences, what beliefs, what thoughts do we have when somebody is having big feelings. Sometimes it can be fearful of our safety, and people can say that that's a little bit weird to think if my 3-year-old is having a tantrum, it makes me feel unsafe. But it's your nervous system associates intensity of big feelings with a time that you felt unsafe. And your nervous system doesn't connect that this is just a 3-year-old and it's okay for me to hold space for their feelings. That's not how it works. It's connecting these two things. And so we need to unpack that baggage in order for it to work. So, in order for us to feel safe, right, we have to unpack it in some way. Now, another way that can happen is if we are in the habit of every time we understand our children's big feelings, we can see now that the need underneath of that is so valid that I'm always going to say yes because it's a valid need. Of course, I will say yes to you. And we're not in the habit of bringing up our own needs. We're not in the habit of noticing them and being okay with finding a way for everybody to get their needs met. That can often bring up this sense that my needs don't matter. And particularly for many of us where we actually are not that in touch with our needs, we're running on autopilot a lot and we're not actually taking the time to get to know and figure out our needs and meet them over time. It actually can be really tricky because we don't notice that we're sacrificing until such time as we're just like, this, again, you with your big feelings means I'm going to have to sacrifice. And it's more than just a skill set sometimes. It's bringing up baggage. So it's bringing up times where we needed to sacrifice our own needs so that our parents would feel comfortable, or so that our parents would be relaxed and connected, or relaxed and loving. There was some reason that you needed to sacrifice your own needs in order for you to feel comfortable as a child. And sometimes it can be adult experiences as well. But until we unpack that in some way, it's going to continue to be feeling very draining for you to hold space for someone's big feelings. And then the third type of baggage that can come up in this space is when your child is having particular feelings with particular needs that you have baggage about. So that might be, for example, their need to allow their hair to be messy and however they want it to be, or maybe they want a hairstyle that's really not the way that you would want to do their hair. And if you really want them to have that autonomy and that choice, but you have really big feelings coming up about how people can be presented, or even how big of a deal, how your hair was looked after when you were a child in either direction, either you were always forced to do it your parents' way, or that they didn't take care of your hair in the way that you wanted it to be done. In either direction, that can bring up some really big feelings now about honouring your child's autonomy in a way that works for you. So you can see how there's these three kinds of ways where our baggage can get in the way of us feeling really comfortable with holding space for somebody. So in that case, I said it's not a skill set, but there is a skill to learn about noticing your own baggage and being able to unpack it. But for a lot of people, the first thing that happens is actually having somebody else help them to unpack that baggage and be comfortable through that process. So if you would like my help to run through these 4 things, so being able to understand what the feeling really means, having the skills to help them to calm down so that you can identify what's going on for them, knowing how to get their needs met without sacrificing your own needs, and unpacking any baggage that comes up for you around feelings, I can help you to build any of those skill sets and help you unpack your baggage. And it would be great if you would like to book in a free call. We can talk, just have a chat for 15 minutes where you just give me a brain dump of, okay, here I'm doing okay, but these things I need some real help with, or I think I'm on the right track here, but I definitely need to fine tune it because it's not quite going the way I'd expect it to. And then we can talk about which of the skill sets you need to focus on and what baggages you're already seeing come up for you. We can make a plan for how I can help you to get there in a really quick and powerful way, where we're focusing on taking the actions that will get you the quickest result in the shortest amount of effort. So what that would look like is you're moving closer to parenting in line with your own values, while also moving closer to parenting in a way that works for your individual children. We want to do those 2 things at the same time, and with my help to focus on which skills need fine-tuning, and also identifying the needs. So because I've got years of practice now of not just with my own children but with my clients, I can help you to get very quickly to what is the real need here and what are the solutions that might be right there, but you're not seeing them because you're too close to it. You're in a rut or a pattern where you're just not seeing the options that are available to you. So those are things that I can help you with so that we can work through that much more quickly. And if you'd like to have a chat about what that would look like for you, you can book a call at jodithornton.com/15. So the number's 15. And that will just book in a 15-minute chat. You can tell me what it is that's going on for you and what you're needing. And I can walk you through what that would look like and how I would help you to get to the kind of parenting that feels not just easier, but it feels like it's more effective, that you feel like what you're doing is a really competent and connected way of parenting with your individual children. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.